Hi there and welcome to another PSD-Tuts spoon-fed Photoshop tutorial. I'm Gavin Steele and I'm going to be taking you through Erin's designing a Rockin 80s party poster. So this is what our final result should look like. Okay, nice bold image of a cassette right in the center there and some cool font stuff at the top and a really nice background. So I'm going to take you through this. All of the files are linked to within the tutorial. We've got a Nordic font there and an image from Stock Exchange. And don't forget to check out all of our other videos over at psdtuts.com. Okay, so what we need to do is load up Photoshop. And you can see this one I just created earlier, but we can just close that down. And we're going to go to File, New. And at the top we're going to set it to a width of 1000 and a height of 1400 pixels and set the resolution to 300. Click on OK. Make sure you get a nice large canvas. I'm just going to zoom out of mine so it all appears on the screen. Hopefully we can all see that. Okay, so once we've done that, we need to add a background color, and that color is going to be C2 BBAA. Click on OK, and we're just going to fill that straight in onto our background. Next thing we need to do is, I'm just going to select everything there. We're going to grab our rulers. So grab the move tool. And I'm just going to bring my rulers down to exactly halfway. So, where are we? Okay. And then it's going to bring this one across. 500 like so. Okay, so we're just going to use these guides. A neat little tip is if you hold down Command on a Mac and press H, you can turn them off and turn them back on again. That's really good when you sometimes they get away when you're they get in the way when you're looking at things. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to change our foreground color. So I'm just going to change that to BBB 099. Click on OK. We're going to add a custom shape. So come over here to our shape tools and down at the bottom you've got custom shape. And then I've already got it set because I used it before, but we're going to be using a preset which is registration target 2. And again, if you click on this little arrow over here, if you can't see it, make sure you have it set to all or go through some of your different frames, music, nature, objects, and ornaments. I can't remember exactly which one it's in, but I've got all selected so I can see all of my custom shapes. And then with that selected, we're going to come into the middle, we're going to hold down Alt, we're going to click, hold down Shift and Alt, and just drag, not like that. We're going to drag right out, like so, and you get a really cool effect. So once you've done that, next thing we need to do is undo all of that, because I didn't do that on another layer, but I'll just quickly do that. Make sure you do that on another layer. Takes 2 seconds, there we go. Okay, so that should be on its own layer. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go and rename that Raise. And we're going to create another layer above that, and we're going to go Layer, New, from Background, and that just opens up our background layer. And then we're going to give it a gradient overlay, and we're going to give it a color burn. So to do that, we just double click on that layer, click on gradient overlay, we're going to set the blending mode to color burn. Going to reduce it right down to 55%, and it's going to be black to white, and we're going to tick, make sure you check the reverse, and we're going to have it set to radial, and everything else should be okay, and just click on OK, and you should get an effect like that. Okay, it's quite hard to see because I'm zoomed out. If I just zoom in a little bit, you should be able to see the difference between the center and the outside layer. Let's just zoom back out. Okay, and then deselect. I'm going to create a new layer above all of these other ones, and we're just going to call it Dirt. And we're going to start to make this background a bit more grungier by adding different textures. So once you've renamed it Dirt, we are going to go for a 60% grey. So if you just click in here and we come over here, something like that, 60%, click on OK. And on that layer we're going to fill that in and make sure you've got black set to the background color. Okay, and then grab your fill tool, fill that area, and then we're going to go to filter, render, and those good old clouds. And then we're going to go back to filter and render, and this time we're going to do the difference clouds. Okay, let's select that, and you should get something that looks like that. And again, we're going to start making this look a little bit more grungy. So head up back to filter, we're going to go to artistic, and we're going to come down to film grain, and we're going to have that set to, let's see if I can bring this in. Oh, it doesn't want to go. Okay, we're going to have that set to a grain of 5. Can leave highlight area as it is, and make sure intensity is set to 2. Click on OK. We're going to go back to filter. This time we're going to go to sharpen, unsharpen mask. We're going to set this to 500. We're going to set the radius to 18, and the threshold we're going to set to 40. And click on OK. We're going to go back to filter. We're going to go down to artistic. Quite a lot of filter stuff in this, and quite a few gradients coming your way. So you're going to get really good use of those tools. Go back down to filter, we'll go back to artistic, and then we're going to go to fresco, and we're going to set fresco. Again, I hope you can see that. We're going to set the brush size to 10, and we're going to set texture to 1. Click on OK, and then we're going to go to image adjustments. We're going to go to our levels, and we're going to set it to 15, 1, and 110, and then click on OK. I'm going to change that layer to screen, and hopefully we're going to start to get some nice texture effects up there, and we're going to reduce the opacity down to 50%. Okay, we just got a nice little breakup of those lines, just creating a little bit too much there. There we go. Just creating a nice little breakup of our background. Right, the next thing that we need to do is create another new layer at the top, and we're going to call this dark. And we're going to create a nice frame for this area to help us focus. So in that dark area, we're going to grab our elliptic tool, okay, elliptical marquee tool, and then again back to the middle. We're going to click, hold down Alt, and we're going to drag out something like that. Okay, so you want to have the edges over here. We're going to fill these in with black. So once you've done that, make sure you head up to select and inverse our selection. So now we've got these corner bits. We're going to go to fill, and we're going to fill it with black. So let's change that, grab that, let's put that straight in. Make sure you deselect, Command D, and then we're going to go up and add a blur and Gaussian blur. Okay, in Gaussian blur we're just going to set that to 150. We're going to reduce our fill to 20%. Up here for the layer, not 200, 20, there we go. And make sure that's set to linear burn. Now, I don't think that's quite dark enough around the edges, so I'm going to increase the fill just a little bit so we get a nice little dark ridge around the side. I'm pretty happy with that. We can always come back and play around with that later on, but for now that looks pretty good. Okay, next thing we need to do is create another new layer, and we're going to call this dirt, and dirt 2, and just bring it above dirt 1 so it's underneath our little vignette at the top there. Okay, so on dirt 2 we're going to set our foreground to be white and our background to be black, and we're going to grab a brush and we're going to select right from the top one of the presets, which is these lovely maple leaves 74. Okay, make sure you've got the diameter set to about 200. Nice big leaves, and we're going to play around with the colour dynamics. So I'm just going to drag over my brush stuff, my brush tools, and we're going to play around with these. So make sure you've got the jitter, okay, set to, and the spacing, sorry, set to 250. Or somewhere around there, maybe 300. That might be a little bit too far. 250 look good. Okay. And color dynamics, foreground jitter, let's set that to 100%. Okay, I'm just going to move that back over and literally just going to paint over the whole of this canvas like so. Okay, looks good. Next thing we need to do is we're going to set, oh, I already had it set to different, so if I just control Z that, sorry about that. Make sure you have your brush, it will be set to normal. Have it set to normal. That's it. Paint everything over the top. And then once you've done that, go back up and paint some difference. Change the mode to difference and paint over the top again. Okay, nice good cover. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Filter, Artistic, we're going to head to Film Grain. We're going to set the grain to 6, highlight area to 0, and our intensity to 2, that's fine, click on OK. We're going to go to Filter, we're going to go back to Artistic, we're going to go to Fresco, brush size set to 1, brush detail set to 10, and then our texture we're going to set to 3. Click on OK. We're going to go back to Filter, Stylize. Down here we're going to go to Solarize, and then we're going to go to Image Adjustments, and we're going to go to Invert. And then we set that layer to Linear Burn and reduce that down to about 20%. Like so. And we're basically just creating our own grunge textures here, so you don't have to go, to any sites and download them. This is a really cool way to get some really nice grunge broken up textures. But obviously you can use brushes if you download them as well, but it's a nice way, a nice little tool of learning how to create your own backgrounds. Right, the next thing we're going to work on is the cassette, and I'm going to go grab that from the site, so head over to Stock Exchange from the link and grab the image. And once you've got the image, drag it onto your desktop. I've got mine down here, and then we're going to drag it straight into Photoshop like so, and it's absolutely massive. Okay, just going to work around with the area here. Okay, that looks good. Right, first thing we need to do is we're going to add some text, and we're going to add a little box. We're going to cover up this area here. So I'm just going to grab the text tool. I've downloaded the text, which I think was, there it is, PTF Nordic, so I'll bring that to the top just so you can see it. Okay, and I'm going to write something like PSD mix. I'm going to increase the size, like so, and then I'm going to change color to black. Just kind of get it just about in place, like so. And I'm going to create a new layer, bring it underneath here, it's a little rectangle layer, and I'm going to grab a marquee tool and like so. I'm going to select the color DDD FD2, and I'm just going to fill that layer. Okay, I'm going to select these two layers and merge them together. And now we can start to position these. So if you free transform, Command T, or head up to Edit, Free Transform. Okay, we can rotate this around until we get it, looking how we want it to look. And we can right click, we can play around with perspective. Okay, we can use some of these lines along here, along the top. So we're getting it looking just about right. Let's have a look. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. And again, you could blend, we could grab the clone tool, spend a bit more time on that text. I can head over to the clone tool. Using Alt, I can select an area over here. We can just slowly blend that in. I think that works pretty well. Okay, so play around with the screen again. I'm not happy with this area at the top, so I might use the clone tool for that area. If I grab Alt, and just get rid of some of the text. That I don't want to see. Okay, that looks pretty good. Once you've got them merged together, we're going to free up our background layer, and we're going to get the cassette off our white layer. And to do that, we're just going to use the pen tool, and we're going to trace around our image. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to start here. And just a really good technique to play around with. The pen tool, hold down space, you can move right around with the same tool. The same tool still selected. There we go. And the great thing about the pen tool is you can create these nice little curves in each corner. Really simple to use. Well, once you get the hang of it, it can take a little while to come to grips with. Okay, I'm just thinking about this corner here. Let's drag that up, perfect. And then I'll come straight down. Get a bit tighter in that. And then we should be able to just grab that corner like so. Okay, so I've gone around the edge of my cassette there, and the next thing to do is right click in the middle. We're going to make a selection of that, no feathering, click on OK. Gonna create a new layer, and then I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it. Oop, I was going to say it's a blank layer. Okay, come back, copy that on my new layer, paste it in place. So selection, inverse. Make sure you selected the layer that you're going to copy, come back to layer 1 you've just created and paste it in. You should see it covers up the lettering. I'm going to put that back above it, but when we turn that off we can see it's now being cut off, and it's a pretty good job. If for whatever reason, if I just undo that few steps, you're not happy with your selection when you go through with it, if you just go back a few steps and go to selection, modify and then contract and just set that to 1 pixel, it'll just cut it off just a little bit more, and then copy and paste onto a new layer. We get a much nicer little selection of your actual layer, and we got rid of some of that dark area around the sides. And again, just move the text up onto the top, and in fact I can just select the two of those, Command D, and merge them down onto the same layer. So once you've got your cassette in the same place, we're going to play around with how it looks. So head up to Layer, and we're going to go to New Adjustment Layer, and we're going to set a threshold. Click on OK. Just bring this up. Okay, and set that to around 210. That might be a little bit too much, is it? No, that's pretty good. What we don't want is too much of this kind of stuff where it's really broken up. Okay, we don't want too much of these little speckly bits because it's going to make this look that bit look uneven. So 210 look pretty good, and click on OK. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to go to Filter. We're going to go down to Sharpen, Unsharpen Mask, and we're going to set it to 500, radius of 15, and the threshold set to 5 levels. Click on OK. Brilliant. Next thing we need to do is we're going to Command E on the new adjustment layer. So that's going to merge it down onto this layer. And then we're going to Command click on our cassette like so. So we've got it as a selection. And then we're going to go to a new layer. And we're going to fill that with a nice dark colour, something like 392200. Nice dark brown. Grab the bucket tool and just fill it in like so. We're then going to copy our cassette layer. So if we just call that, make sure we got the names right. Okay, that's that. Okay, so we're going to copy our cassette layer. So Command C. We're going to head over to our channels. We're going to create a new channel, and then we're going to paste that copy from our layers onto our new channel. So just wait for that to load a couple of seconds. Okay, Command V, and just paste that in like so. Then what we can do is we can Command click on that layer and we get all this area on the inside. Go back to our layers. Okay, we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to fill that now with a line or a greeny kind of colour. So that's BBEE99. Click on OK, and again you can just fill it like so. Command deselect, and then we can grab all of those and just merge them together. Next thing to do is start using this file in our other composition. So just drag that layer. I'm going to call it cassette again, and just drag that layer straight onto this document like so. Can minimize this out of the way. You can always come back to it. Okay, so once you've got your tape in there, free transform it, and we're going to scale it by about 35%, and then we're just going to rotate it round by, let's say, 100, and then we're going to position it somewhere in the middle like so. And I can use that Command H just so I can get rid of my guides, but also I can use them to find out where the middle is. Okay, that looks pretty good. Right, so once we've done that, we need to create a new layer. We're going to call it stroke. We're going to bring that underneath our cassette layer, and then we're going to Command click on our cassette layer, but we're going to make sure we're on our stroke layer, and we're going to fill that layer with that lime green that we had, which was BBEE99. Then press V on the keyboard or go up to the move tool, and we're just going to move that 10 pixels to the left and 3 pixels up, like so. Then I'm going to deselect that, and it just kind of gives an edge to our cassette, kind of makes it stand out a little bit. And then we're going to apply a stroke to our cassette layer. So come up here, down to stroke, we double clicked on that layer. We're going to set it to 5 pixels, make sure it's outside, set to normal. Opacity is set to 100, and the colour is going to be that greeny colour, which is BBEE99. And click on OK. Okay, next thing we need to do is Command click on our cassette tape again. Just going to let that change take effect. Okay, so Command click on our cassette layer one more time. And this time we're going to go to Edit, define brush. Okay, so just click on that, should bring up a little brush, and then click on OK. I've actually already defined one. If I go to my brushes and drag all the way down to the bottom, you can see I created one here. Set the diameter to 200 pixels, like so. We're just going to create some background elements to our image. So once you've defined that as a brush, we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to call that falling one. It's going to be behind the stroke, and we're going to play around again with our brush tips and our preset. So make sure the brush is set to 200, make sure the spacing is set to 370, and make sure you've got shape dynamics checked. Okay, just move that out of the way, and then we're literally just going to brush this in over the top. Now you need to make sure you've got a nice dark colour, so I'm going to go back and just select one of these browns. Make sure you deselect and you're on the falling. We're just going up vertically here. Like so, just placing these elements. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to create another new layer. This time we're going to call it falling 2. And we're going to increase the size of our brush to 400. And as these are going to be slightly bigger, we're going to apply a soft light to the layer, and we're going to bring the opacity down to about 60%. That's it. You might even want to try a little bit bigger. A few off to the side. Okay, brilliant. Let's just zoom in and have a quick look how that's all looking. Okay, that's pretty good. And then just zoom out. Okay, so once you've got all those in, the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a new layer above our rays, and we're going to call that shadow. So if we go back down to our rays, create new layer, we're going to call this shadow. And then on our shadow layer, we're going to grab our marquee tool once again, and we're going to create a little background element just for the cassette. So just select that, bring it out, like so. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're just going to fill that with a nice brown colour, say 553300. We're just going to click on fill, and then make sure you deselect, go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur, and set that to 100 pixels. Click on OK. Then we're going to go back to filter, back to blur, and back to Gaussian blur, and this time we're going to reduce that down to another 50 pixels and click on OK. And that kind of just like makes it stand out against the background of our image. Next thing we need to do is add some of the text. So we're going to grab the font tool and we're going to type rewind to the 80s in the top and start to apply some really nice effects with that. So you need to find the font, which is over, the link is over to the font, and it's this Nordic font, this PTF Nordic. It's downloadable for Mac and PC, so make sure you download that. And when you've got that font selected, you'll realise that actually I don't need that right now. That font is for the cassette that we use. So if we head back into Photoshop, you can see that's the font that we use for the PSD mix. We can actually use a different font, so if we just grab the text tool and we're going to type rewind up at the top, so like so, and I've got this Pilgi text Pilgi. There's lots of curly kind of text out there, you just got to try different ones. Unfortunately there wasn't a link to it on the tutorial, so I was lucky and I had one that's quite similar to it. Select the font, we're just going to increase the size of it. We're going to move it into the middle, and then we're going to change the color of it, and we're going to set the color to a similar brown to the one that we had earlier. So set it to CC9966, a light orangey color, and click on OK. And then once you've done that, we're going to rasterize that layer. So head up to Layer, go down to Rasterize, Layer, like so. Then we're going to duplicate the layer, and we're going to go through a similar process for each of our elements, our text elements. So we're going to have rewind, 80s, and two little triangles down the bottom to symbolize the rewinding. So with our rewind copy selected, we're going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise, have it set to 25%, Uniform and Monochromatic, click on OK. Then we're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, or Motion Blur, sorry. We're going to set the distance 200 and the angle is going to stay on 0. And then we're going to come down to Rewind and we're going to go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and this time set it to 20 and click on OK. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create our 80s text. So I'm just going to move these two layers above our cassette layer, like so. And I'm going to create our 80s down the side. So again, 80s, and just going to have to create the S separately because it pushes it a little bit too far. Okay, and just drag that into place. Now you might want to reduce the size of these because the rewind is the big bit, so if we just grab that and just bring that down to, let's say, 30 to 40, and then grab our S as well. Oh, and that. If we grab our S as well and bring that right down to 40 as well, and then move it back into place. And then I'm just going to grab those two layers, head up to Layer, Rasterize, Layers, and then Command D, I'm going to merge them together, call it 80s, and that way I can just move it into position like so. And again, before I did that, we should have changed the color of it, so I'm just going to quickly go through that process one more time. So 80s, put that in place, grab those two layers, bring them over to the left, and again I'm just going to set the color to that CC9966, and again CC9966. Once we've done that, we can grab those two layers, head back over to Layer, Rasterize, and rasterize the layers. I'm going to merge them down onto one layer, rename them one more time, and then we're going to go through the same process once we've merged them down. Going to create a new layer, head up to Filter, going to go to Noise, Add Noise, same settings, 25%, then Filter, Motion Blur, and we're going to have that set to 200, and then click on the 80s, not the copy, go back to Filter and Motion Blur, and reduce it down to 20. And click on OK. And that's basically our text. Now we're going to play around with the colour of it just towards the end of the tutorial. I'm going to head over to my custom shapes down here. I've selected the triangle, and I'm just going to, on a new layer, I'm just going to draw out my triangles like so. And again, I'm going to change the colour back to that CC9966 colour. I'm going to undo that shape, make sure we create a new layer for it, and then just draw it out like so. Free transform it, and we're just going to flip it so it's facing the right way. And then with your move tool selected, hold down Alt, and I'm just going to grab that like so. With those two layers, again, we're going to merge those two down. So select the two of them, merge them, duplicate them, and we're going to go through exactly the same as we did with the lettering. We're going to go to Noise, add Noise, Filter, add a Motion Blur, set it to 200, click on the layer below, the original, go back to the Motion Blur, and just reduce it down to 20. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's our text done, everything like that. Once you've done that, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to play around with some of the colours of our backgrounds, and we're going to brighten these areas up. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to apply a gradient overlay to our background layer shadow. So find out where your shadow is, double click on it, go to gradient overlay, and we're going to play around with some of these settings. I'm just going to go back to my notes. Okay, and I'm just going to read off these gradient overlays. So make sure you've got it selected, set it to linear dodge. We're going to have it set to 60%, and our first one is going to be from orange to yellow and back to orange again. Click on OK. Make sure you've got that set to radial, and we're going to scale that down to 80% and click on OK, and already that's starting to have a really nice effect. Head up to our dark layer, again another gradient overlay, and this time we're going to go to color burn, and we're going to set that to 100% opacity, and this time we're going to go violet to green to orange. So select that one, click on OK. Again, make sure it's set to linear, 90 degrees is fine, and scale set to 100. You can see we get a nice little color variation at the top. We're now going to go back to our rewind and our copy layers. So these two here. I'm just going to quickly merge those two together, and we're going to do a gradient overlay for these, set to linear dodge, and reduce that down to 80%, and this time our color is going to be orange to yellow again. Click on OK, and linear is fine for this, 90 degrees is fine, and 100 is fine. Click on OK. Okay, that looks pretty good, and we're going to do exactly the same for our 80s as well. So grab our 80s layers. I'm just going to bring that one back up. Grab those two layers, merge them down, and this time we're not going to apply a gradient overlay. We're actually going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and we're going to make this stand out nice and red. So on our hue, we're going to set that to -35, and our saturation is going to be quite high. I'm going to set that to 50, and click on OK. And then finally we're going to go to our Falling 2 layer, Gradient Overlay, and this time make sure it's set to Color Burn, 30%, leave it on black and white, check reverse, everything else should be set to standard, and click on OK. And that's just going to make them a bit darker at the top and then fade towards the bottom. And that's pretty much the tutorial. I'm just going to zoom in, Command H to turn off my rulers, and just show you around some of the things that we've done. So we played around with the tape, okay, we played around with our font and our text, and we've created a pretty cool poster. There's enough space down the bottom to add any text that you might want to add to it for a gig or something like that. And it's a really nice simple little tutorial just to play around with creating your own grunge effects and your own brushes and things like that. So don't forget to check out the tutorial over at psttuts.com. Aaron's done a great tutorial on designing a Rockin 80s poster. And don't forget to check out our other videos over at psttuts.com/categories/videos. I've been Gavin Steele, and I hope you enjoyed that.